There are people who want fancier meals, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you want to have a more complicated meal and you want to figure that out in advance, my hat's off to you. This video is for people who might be new to camping and cooking when they're camping, so I just want to make things easy for you. Hi, my name is Peter. I like motorcycles and motorcycle camping. Whenever you're camping, you got to have something to eat. You don't have to make your own food. Depending on where you go camping, there may be restaurants nearby. You might be able to pack up and go for coffee in the morning. You don't have to, but I tend to camp in more remote places, so I need to be able to eat. And I'm coming from a backpacking background. I want to have light food that's convenient. You can just throw a steak on the fire. That's what Dork in the Road likes to do. And I would do that if I can, but I don't want to carry meat around all day in 100 degrees temperature on the back of my motorcycle. So I would only cook fresh meat if I happen to find a store that has meat available close to where I'm camping. And that doesn't happen a lot. I recommend that you always have some kind of dinner available. And if you watch some of my videos about when I've gone too far or couldn't find a place to camp, sometimes the reason is I didn't have a dinner on board and I had planned to stop at a store on the way. Sometimes you can find a good store. Sometimes you're going to a gas station that's got 5 shelves of potato chips and 1 shelf of something else. So it's okay. You can find something on that something else shelves. I've eaten Dinty Moore stew that I bought at a gas station, and it was fine. It was tasty. It's not impossible to find something at some of those little convenience stores. But if you're thinking ahead and you want to get something, then there's a lot of options. I'm going to give you 3 meal ideas that I use on my trips. And I'm just getting ready for a trip right now, so I've got a bunch of food with me. You might start by thinking about those instant pre-packaged freeze-dried meals that you get for camping. And I have one of those here. So this meal is 430 calories, could serve 2 people. That's not a lot. If you got to have something else, because 200 something calories is not enough for a meal. But I would eat this all myself. It's 3 bean chili pasta and eat 400 calories. That would be a good dinner for me. But this costs a lot of money. So this is not my recommendation. Stick this in your pannier and save it for emergencies. It's lightweight and doesn't take up a lot of space. And let's see how long it lasts. There should be a date on this of expiry date. Okay, what the hell is that? 2030. This is good for until 2030, and I'm recording this in 2025, so it's got a good shelf life. I'll probably eat it before then. Here's the kind of thing that I would recommend to get is something like this. This little side dish is got some noodles in it, and it's got a quarter pouch has 110 calories, so this whole pouch has got 400, and it's a little bit high in carbs, but I'll show you what I do to add a little protein, also a little more calories. So bear with me. I'm going to cook a dinner right now and tell you about my cooking stuff while you listen. So first thing you need is a stove. I've used this old Coleman stove for a long time. I've had this stove for about 15 years. My wife bought it at a thrift store, so it's a lot older than that. I love the Coleman stoves because it's easy to find Coleman fuel. The Coleman fuel comes in a container that you can recycle. It's just easy to use. The Coleman stove, you have to pump it up. The only thing that's ever gone wrong with this stove is that the pump has failed. I've had to rebuild the pump. You can buy a little kit for that. That's pretty easy. But it requires this pumping, because if there's no pressure in there, it's not going to light. Okay, so they say 35 pumps, but I do it until it feels on, right? Then you turn it, then you need a lighter, right? Once I didn't have a lighter. I lost my lighter on a trip and I had to find some emergency lights. And then when you light it, it can flare up a lot. It can take a while. Like it's not ready to go yet. I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit of orange flames coming here. So this is not ready to cook yet. You got to give it a minute. You let it go for a bit. See, the flames come and go and they do funny things until it gets really going. The other thing is, if you've ever seen these collapsible cook pots that are made out of plastic, you can't use those on a Coleman stove because the flame is too big and the heat on the side will come up and melt the plastic. Ask me how I know that. Those are very expensive pots to use one time. Okay, so now it's about ready to cook. I'm going to turn this off because this is not the stove that I want to use. So turn it off, I just turn that. I'll set this aside, and here's my new stove. This stove is butane, and it comes in a cylinder. So this cylinder is recyclable where facilities exist, and I happen to have a place in my town that will take it. But I bet that 90% of them end up in the landfill, and that's not something I believe in. One of the things I like about this stove is, look, compared to the Coleman, it's low, and I know the Jetboil is the same. They get quite tall. When you put the pot on there, now right here, I'm on a table on a stable deck. But if you're in the bush and you don't have a nice picnic table, then it's hard to get this thing level. And when you have to stir it and it slides, that's really bad. So on a little lower platform is a much better, more stable thing. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get the new stove. Let's cook up this Knorr and add a little bit of meat to it. I'll tell you how I managed to have meat on the trail when I'm not buying it fresh. I've had this old stove for years, and I finally get around to buying a new stove, and it does this. You just turn it on, and then press a button, and it's burning, and it's ready to cook. I put some water in here, not too much. I think that's probably a bit. This stuff says 2 cups of water, 500 mils. Okay, that's about right. Okay, so I can put that on. That's going to cook pretty fast. And then I'll be able to throw this in. Now, there's a lot of these little side dish type things that you can get. So there's that. There's Uncle Ben's. They have rice in them. I've got 3 different Uncle Ben's here. I'm going to use at different times. You know, any one of these gives you a good base for a meal, right? 360 calories in a pouch. A lot of carbs, right? A lot of carbs, and you know that if you watch my video about being 67, I mentioned that I do have some dietary restrictions, but what my doctor says is that, you know, you eat 1 million calories in a year, 1 or 2 days when you're eating a lot of carbs, that's kind of a drop in the bucket on the whole year. Look, it's boiling already. That is so fast, okay? But you don't want to get, if it says simmer, reduce heat to medium and continue boiling for 7 minutes or so. 7 minutes is a long time, using up a lot of stuff, but let's get that in there because my water's boiling away. Pour the package in there. Get something to stir it with. I left my spoon elsewhere. Okay, I'm going to stir it with my this. Okay, see there it goes off the. Okay, so it's boiling in. Now this one you can turn down quite a bit. Oh, I turned it off. See, it's starting to boil over. It's got to be quite low, quite low. This was not the best choice. There's a moto vlogger called As the Magpie Flies. Her name's Amanda Zito. She's got a cookbook. She's got a whole cookbook. They've turned it off again. I'm going to let it simmer without being on for a little bit. She's written a cookbook for motorcycle camping. So if you like, a little nicer meal, then that's the way to go. I'm not good with recipes. If there's more than 2 steps, I get confused. So, I don't want to plan that much in advance. I can never figure out recipes at home and I go like, add this, take away that. It's not for me. But if you want something a little more complicated, a little more flavorful probably, a little more balanced, then check out Amanda's cookbook. Okay, now I was going to tell you about meat. What I've been doing when I've been hiking, you have no refrigeration on the bike, you have no refrigeration when you're hiking. Some of these sausage is kind of like for sandwiches, but you can cut them up and add them to your food. This stuff is heavily preserved. That's why it's not good for you. These will not go off for a couple of days. I don't know what the actual length of time is, but I have carried these on backpacking trips for several days. And the other thing is you can have them for lunch too. This doesn't look very appetizing. I'm going to go get Amanda's cookbook. Let's give this a stir. Take this out. Not quite done yet. For lunches, I like to actually, the one meal that I tend to buy when I'm on the road is lunch because, you're traveling, you will often, even on the most back road places, you might find a place that you want to stop for lunch. So I do have lunch. But I also like these flatbreads. Regular bread, here's the thing about regular bread, it gets squished. Pretty soon it's going to look like this, and it's less appetizing. So I love these flatbreads because they're easy to pack, they can stick on top in your pannier, top box, and they don't get wrecked. So you can, throw some cheese in there. Cheese is another thing that you like to keep in the fridge at home, but it won't go bad. It kind of looks a little bit gross after a while, but a chunk of cheese will last you several days. And I would wrap some cheese up with this. I'd put some of this sausage back in there, and and that'll do. It's not as appetizing as a nice hamburger joint that you might come across, but it certainly will feed you if you're in the middle of nowhere and you just want to stop for lunch. So lunch is pretty easy. Lunch is pretty optional. Lots of different things to do. Breakfast is, I always want to have my coffee first thing in the morning. I didn't bring coffee stuff out here. How you do your coffee, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can do it with instant coffee. You can do it with little filters. You can do it with, I have a little espresso machine that I used if you watched my trip up on Tuxedo Island. So coffee is, there's lots of options for coffee. But if you're going to cook coffee in the morning, you might as well have a breakfast. There's these instant oatmeal pouches. These ones say extra protein. I don't know why, but they're probably still whole grain rolled oats, sugar, whey, protein concentrate. So it's got more sugar than protein. It's not on the recommended list for daily consumption. A couple of these together make a nice breakfast. I just found this instant protein pancake mix. Now that I would not take hiking, but I'm heading up to Gold River for the Roadbook Rally, and I think this might be a nice breakfast for one of those days. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, right? All set. Here's something I learned about eggs. Now, you can get these little containers, plastic containers that you can carry eggs in, but eggs can have, I forget what the bacteria is on them, but eggs can go bad and can be toxic to you pretty fast. You know, they're talking about a matter of hours. So when I was doing research for this video, and I thought I was going to say, look, you know, just bring some eggs along in this container so they don't get broken. The answer is no, unless you're buying farm fresh eggs. But if you're buying eggs from the store, they've been washed and the coating that protects them is gone. They're more likely to go off pretty quickly. So no eggs. Mix up some powdered milk, and you can have cereal if that's what you like to have for the breakfast in the morning. You know, note the difference between instant milk and coffee mate. Instant milk dissolves in cold water. Coffee mate dissolves in hot liquid. So never the twain shall meet. They are not the same. I used to think, well, I only thought for one moment that I just stick some instant milk into my coffee and it'd be like adding coffee. No, it's like adding lumps of white stuff. So no, don't do that. But yeah, you can mix up some milk and have that with your coffee if that's what you like with your coffee. You know, again, I would buy milk if I can in the second half of the day, and it's not going to go off overnight. But I wouldn't buy milk to carry for a long time. I mean, the great thing about, I usually use cream at home, but if I buy milk on the road, I can just drink the excess and don't have to worry about, you know, having extra milk along with me. So I buy a little pint of milk at a store in the afternoon, and then I have milk with my coffee in the morning. Okay, that's not bad. Not bad. Okay. See how that looks? Clean up is a breeze. Well, you know, I could eat this straight out of the pot, and to be honest, if I wasn't sharing my recipe with you, I probably would. So instead of getting two things dirty. I always carry a little sponge in a Ziploc bag that I can use to clean up. Soap in a, get these little plastic containers that you can put liquids in. You can put some cooking oil in there if you're going to cook something on a frying pan. And you could put a little bit of soap in there for cleaning up. And then you're ready to go. Also, it's good to add a little water to your dirty pot. Let it soak while you're having your dinner. Okay? So that's all for me. Hope this is helpful to you. If you have a favorite camping recipe, keep it simple. If you have a simple camping recipe, let me know. If you like complicated stuff, you can let me know. You cook 3-course meals out of 6 ingredients, then hats off to you.